this presentation. This topic is one of my passion topic areas. We're going to talk about Azure machine learning. We're going to talk about what makes the world move. And it's an exciting time now to be involved with analytics and data technology. Some of you may have seen a lot of the buzzwords in the news. You see buzzwords like big data have become important in the last few years. Even the genesis of this group with the word analytics now becoming more well-known in the business communities. Now it has become more important bringing IT and IT analytics from the back room where the servers are into the boardroom. And from some perspective, it's always already been there. We have had analytics tools available. And even still true today, the number one tool that people report using, the number one commercial tool, according to KD Nuggets polls in the past few years, has been Microsoft Excel. So Microsoft knows that Office is now, has a potential user base of 1 billion based on the current number of licenses that are out there. And people can use that technology. And of course, people are not using Excel alone. People are using Excel with other tools, and people who get into this area of data mining and data science and machine learning, they're functionally using a number of different things to use their technology. So I'm going to let me minimize this task panel, and I guess I could just focus it on my presentation, but I'm going to be showing a number of different things. So let me go ahead and just minimize the task panel and go to my slide deck. Okay. So it's a little bit about me. As Dan said, I'm SQL Server MVP and SAS expert. I've been working with the SAS technology since the early 90s. I used it for my own dissertation when I was at Georgia Tech, and I was a student there at the time, this is in the 90s, studying statistics and studying management. A lot of my program was influenced by W. Edwards Deming, who I got to meet in the 90s. And he is, if you want to look him up, W. Edwards Deming, American statistician who helped the Japanese revitalize their industry. And he did it with analytics. And he did it back in a time when people were not talking about machine learning. We're talking about the 1950s, okay, 40s, 50s. That's when Deming was doing his primary work with Japan. He had a whole big influence in the statistical community and organizations such as the American Statistical Association, and that provided a groundwork for businesses using statistics. And of course, computers back then were very primitive. Now today we have much more sophisticated computers available, and today Microsoft's promoting that through Microsoft Azure. You see the shirt that I'm wearing there? That logo is now the logo for Azure Machine Learning, and I picked that t-shirt up at a Microsoft event. And they're using this flask, this Erlenmeyer flask, to represent machine learning, emphasizing the scientific method, and hopefully turning us all into scientists. And I hope that's true. I've asked audiences how many people have a degree in computer science, and a number of people do have that type of degree and they're working in this field. And then I asked them, how many of you think you're a scientist? And a lot of people do not want to raise their hand. But if you're doing computer science, you can be a scientist. You can follow the scientific method. The technology I'm talking about today will reinforce the scientific method. The purpose today, too, is, as I get into today's presentation, is give you an introduction to the technology, give you some specific resources to follow up. Obviously, you cannot learn completely everything in a 1-hour presentation, but also I'm going to have some time toward the end of today's presentation to give you a chance to ask some questions. I'm also going to mention, too, that I'm going to be having a giveaway, and my giveaway is a credit card that I got from Microsoft. It's Try Hadoop in the Cloud, and it is a free, it says it's a free unlimited 30-day trial. Now, if you want to be part of the lottery for this giveaway, I want you to send email to this email address here that's on your screen, and you'll be able to be part of this lottery. And I will let you know that I got your email, so you will get something back from me, but somebody will win this code that you can use for trying Hadoop in the cloud. So that will be good for you to be able to try this technology. And I'll be showing that giveaway later on. My primary work is consulting. That's where I have the vast majority of my income comes from that. The vast majority of my time comes from that, working with government and other types of clients. One thing I'm going to emphasize, and I'm going to bring up a story later on, is that data science is a team sport. And you're going to hear me saying that a number of times. My career says that, ever since I was in the 90s working with my advisor on my dissertation and working with the government, working with a number of health professionals there, and then even when I work with clients. It is a team sport. It's best done with groups. And the groups can be as small as 2 people, but they can scale up, and I've been on some larger teams working on some other types of projects. So I've done that. I've done training. I have done some training this week in Minnesota, and I was training on SQL Server. And I've done teaching at university, different schools. Right now I've been teaching at University of Phoenix since 2005, where I'm mentoring dissertations. I've mentored now 7 students through their doctoral dissertation, and I've also taught statistics undergraduate and graduate level and done a number of presentations through PASS. Dan mentioned the LinkedIn group, and I'm going to also promote that LinkedIn group by saying that if you want to continue the discussion for today's presentation, go ahead and join that group. I'm going to join it myself. I've brought it up in the other screen, and I've noticed that, so we have this PASS Business Analytics virtual chapter on LinkedIn. You want to start a thread there, and I will participate with you there on LinkedIn if you have any follow-up on today's presentation. So let's talk about what Microsoft Azure Machine Learning is. And these are just some definitions. I'm going to read the definitions, and then we're going to show some technology. If you have any questions about these definitions, you can ask them toward the end of the presentation today. And of course, you can use that chat box. So I will be monitoring the chat box, and you will be able to have that available. Microsoft Azure Machine Learning is a fully managed cloud service for building predictive analytics solutions. It helps overcome the challenges most businesses have in deploying and using machine learning. So the 2 key words we want to look at is deploying and using. And how does it do that? By delivering a comprehensive machine learning service that has all the benefits of the cloud. And we're talking specifically about Microsoft Azure. AzureML, it says which previews next month, but I should change that. It's already out. AzureML will bring together capabilities of new analytics tools, powerful algorithms developed from Microsoft products like Xbox and Bing, and years of machine learning experience into one simple and easy-to-use cloud service. Today, there are 3 main companies that are heavily investing in cloud technology, and I saw this recently in the news feed. The 3 companies are Google, Amazon, and Microsoft, and that is a known factor. You can go and check the business news to verify what I just said. But at the present time, those 3 companies are heavily investing in cloud technology. And it was only recently with the supposed hacking of the somebody's iPhone accounts that I discovered that Apple in its iCloud is actually using Amazon and Microsoft for the back end. So we can see that there are certain companies that are investing in the back end as far as infrastructure, and Microsoft's one of them. The Microsoft Azure Machine Learning technology is built on Hadoop. And on the back end, you don't have to know how to run Hadoop, but once you start using it, you can claim, yes, you have used Hadoop. You haven't used everything with Hadoop, and maybe you don't have to configure it because the service is already pre-configured for you. That is one of the advantages here. The service is really designed to focus your energy on running experiments in the cloud, and that option is what people would want in kind of a business situation, be able to scale up problems and be able to purchase. It's like an on-demand purchase for machine learning services. It had been true in the past if you wanted to use server technology, and we're talking about years ago. We're not talking about last week or last year. We're talking about years ago. If you wanted server technology, what you had to do is you had to get a server, and a server was usually a box of considerable cost and more expensive because it used different type of memory, different types of hard drives, different types of setup, required a bit of a specialized expertise to be able to set up and get going. And some people can and still will need to do that. But the cloud advantage is having that hardware issues all in the back end where it can be centrally monitored and managed. On the back end, yes, they still need to be concerned about installation and hard disks and disks failing and throttling usage among users. But that's now an issue which is less apparent to the users on the front end, and that's what the advantage of the service is here. Okay, we're going to talk about integration with R in a second, but what I'm going to do is show on the screen some idea of what this machine learning technology is. And unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to show a video, but let's go through and see some of these screenshots here from the Azure Machine Learning Portal. So this is the Azure Machine Learning Portal. It's cloud-based predictive analytics. It's designed for new and experienced users. The algorithms are coming from MS Research, Xbox, and Bing. You're going to look at it through a web browser just like you're looking at it right now, and I'm using Internet Explorer. We have the chance to have seamless connection to HD Insight for big data solution. You can go from development to production in minutes. So once you have the data already available, you can go straight to production. Now I'm going to comment that some people new to machine learning may not realize that most of the effort that you're going to have in machine learning as far as your personal time and effort is going to be spent on the transformation steps. And it's very important for people to be able to do that. Let me put the microphone on pause here just a second because I'm getting a phone call I have to take. Okay, I'll take that after I am finished here. Let's not talk about that. Let's move to this one here. There's a number of resources available on the web that show the power of machine learning. I'm just going to reference some of them here, and you can go and look them up on your own, or you can be looking in Bing and search for where these links are. There's a video out there about Pier 1 stores. And Pier 1 Stores is using Azure Machine Learning to build better relationships with their customers. And what Microsoft did as far as the release of this technology, and as Dan mentioned, I have been on the beta for Azure Machine Learning basically since they had started. And there was an early group of about 10 people that came over from working on some Bing technology, and they came over and started developing this new Microsoft Azure Machine Learning. And while they were ramping up that team, they also reached out to me and many other people. And I say many other people, probably in the dozens, mostly people through the partner program and looking for business cases, people who would be working with their clients and customers and using the technology. So what we see on the screen here is now they took some of those cases and Microsoft released them as stories. And so we can see stories of businesses who are actually using this technology right now. One of them is Pier 1 Imports, which is what we see here. Pier 1 Imports is a furniture and home decor store. So they sell home products, and you see the woman in the screenshot there, and you see a lot of baskets in the background. So there's just a lot of home products that are at Pier 1. Pier 1 is using it to understand their customers, their customer buying patterns, and I have seen a number of different surveys. Now this is just general information surveys about how people are using machine learning, and that is that most of them, a lot of people are using them for customer relationship management. Okay, hang on, let me get that phone call. Yeah, sorry about that phone call. All right, so Pier 1 is one of the main stores that has done this technology, and you can go see that example. Joseph Sirash is an important person to know, so I have him here on my slide deck. I actually took a picture of his face here from his LinkedIn profile. And he is the main person who now is in charge of this Azure machine learning technology. I connected with him on LinkedIn, but you'll also see him on Twitter, and he will be periodically blogging or tweeting about developments in this technology. So that name is Joseph Sarash, if you want to go find him and connect with him on the internet. He made the initial announcement back in June on this technology, and it came out just before the Worldwide Partner Conference, Microsoft's Worldwide Partner Conference, and you know, that's just been something that has been available from that aspect. So a number of people have been blogging on this technology. The important thing here in this particular screen, and you see a small screenshot, I'm going to go into it in a second, but you have this basic panel interface where you have this workflow of data coming in. It's basically an ETL workflow. You extract the data from a data source, you transform it using data mining and machine learning modeling, and then you load the results, or which would be final predictions, into a model. And once those models are trained, then you can run predictions against them, and you can get new probabilities out of the results. At the time this particular blog post came out, it said that there were over 350 open source R packages that had been ported to Azure Machine Learning. That number is now over 400. So they're continuing to add technology, and it almost seems like week by week I'm always hearing about new developments in the technology. I'm going to go to my personal portal, and I'm going to show some of the areas that are available. So of course we are in Microsoft Azure. If you get a Windows Azure account, it's actually it's now, even though the domain says windowsazure.com, Microsoft has changed their mind, and they have decided now to brand the entire area as Microsoft Azure. So you're going to see Microsoft Azure Machine Learning, even though the domain or some of the other trails in this marketing might say Windows Azure. They are going with Microsoft Azure now. All the items here are listed, so we have other things in this Microsoft Azure portal that are beyond just the machine learning. There's machine learning right here toward the middle, toward the lower end of my list, but there's some other things on here that are important for as far as knowing what Microsoft's making available. We got websites. We have the ability to do virtual machines. So you could host, for example, a Windows machine, Windows Server here in Azure, and you have mobile cloud services. You have SQL Azure, SQL databases there, HD Insight, which is possible, and you have a number of things here. Visual Studio Online, if you haven't seen that, take a look at that. You have a content delivery network, a scheduler, and many other features. And I'm going to tell you, I have not walked down all these paths, but it is Microsoft's intention to make all these technologies work together, and you would be charged through one single account. You know, you have an account, and right now I'm in my account here, you know, according to my email address, but that's going to be available for people to be using that online. What you see on my items is that these are a list of the different things that I have provisioned. The word is provisioned in the Azure Machine Learning portal. We have some storage accounts I've provisioned in the past. We have a directory. This line right here that I'm highlighting is the ML, or Machine Learning Workspace. And you see the subscription terms on the right. Because I have Visual Studio Ultimate with MSDN, I have a certain amount of Azure credits that are available, and those credits would be something that would that people could use to spend against their account. So I got a virtual machine and I got a cloud service. So let's go into taking a look at the dashboard. This is called the Machine Learning Workspace. It's been created already, and we can follow these next steps to be able to look into this workspace. You sign into the ML Machine Learning Studio, and then you get this area where you're able to see what is available. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Machine Learning Studio. The domain then changes to AzureML.net, but in the top left we have Azure Machine Learning, Microsoft Azure Machine Learning. Remember, it's Microsoft Azure now, not the other Windows Azure. In this first panel, there's a lot of help in getting started. And this is where I would encourage you to set aside maybe a few hours to go through this area and explore this for yourself. One thing they did was they have this area called Quick Start, and there's a number of helpful videos about getting started with Azure Machine Learning. They have some of their scientists that walk through specific examples of getting started. It's not my intention to go through the steps. In other words, I'm going to guarantee you're not going to be able to be completely enabled by the end of today to be able to do that, because you're going to have to go in here and learn how to do that and see what's available. But we have at least 5 videos here, and I've seen that there's other lists. There's actually more than 5, so there's more than 5 videos available. But that's the ones that show in this front panel. They have to do with getting started, pre-processing data, doing predictive modeling, and putting it into operation. Key to the whole design here is this button here called Experiments. And Experiments is your workspace. As they have described it in Microsoft Word, you get a document. In Microsoft Excel, you get a workbook with worksheets. And in Microsoft Azure Machine Learning, you get experiments. And experiments represent the flow for making something shown on these results. I'm going to click into one of the samples here. This is a color-based image experiment. And what you see on the left side is I have some saved data sets that are available, including the Bill Gates RGB image. So I don't know if you need to use the Bill Gates RGB image, but you have that as an available data set. And many other data sets. One of the common data sets in machine learning is this IRIS-2 class data, and that's been used in a lot of books. And you can also upload some of your own data sets to this area. This panel, similar to SQL Server Integration Services because it has widgets, and we have the ability to do data format conversions, so you can get from the ARFF format or CSV data sets and other types of conversions here. Data input, you can read from a source. Now you see on the lower right, you can load data from sources such as a web, SQL Azure, Windows Azure, Hive Table, Windows Azure Blob Storage, and more. And one of the examples too is CSV. I don't generally like CSV because I think it's the 1990s. So if you have to do CSV, then yes, do that. But as much as possible, you'd want to keep it in a relational table where the typing is consistent. Data transformations, there's all sorts of filtering things that you can do here as far as these widgets on the left side. You can add columns and rows, doing joins, sampling and splitting, data set, quantization there I see on the screen. Feature selection, what is a feature? And many of you have not heard the word feature, but feature is well known. The word feature is well known in the machine learning community. It means the same thing as column. It means the same thing as variable from statistics. The word columns, often used by Excel people. The word attribute, you might hear from the people who are using OLAP technology. And as far as machine learning is concerned, attribute and measure really are the same thing as far as machine learning is concerned. It means 2 different things, perhaps in the OLAP world, but it means one thing as far as machine learning. And they have sidestepped all of that and called it feature. So when they call feature selection, they're talking about choosing variables or choosing columns. This path here of evaluating, initializing a model, scoring, and training follow along the lines of what you would need to do with machine learning. So you can do evaluation. Evaluation happens at the end, and that's really cross-validation, checking models, how they do against one another. We have different types of models, including classification models to make classes. And in this case, they separated out multi-class from 2-class, and that's different from the analysis services technology where they combine multi-class and 2-class together into single classification technologies. Clustering, they have a k-means clustering, which is a hard clustering model. And then down here we have some regression models. We have some R modules, and we can see what the idea here. Now everything's done through R scripting, and as you see with the hover over box now, we're at R version 3.1, which is a good version, 3.10 for R. As you know, it just went to version 3 recently in our years, because it's kind of a new thing. And then we have some ability to do some text analytics. If I zoom into the screen, so I'm going to zoom in now, and I'm going to see what's on this particular screen. We have k-means clustering, we have some training. Those little check boxes means that I have run this experiment in the past and it has been successful. When I touch an R script box, that's where we see our R code in the upper right hand corner here. So we got the R code here up in the upper right hand corner. We see our data frames and our plotting, and that's all available. We have random seed, we have start and end times, so we have some management ideas here. On the right, we have some experiment properties, and we have some information. If I click that link, let me see what happens, because I don't like to click new links because I don't know where they're going to go. But it's going to go to ML Studio Help, and I can see that, of course, this is now still in preview, so that's why it says this topic is still in pre-release documentation. But it gives you an idea of what is available or how it would achieve its goal. It is very bare bones right now, and I wouldn't say that all the documentation is completely built out. But I'm going to also tell you about how to join the community, because you need to think about this whole project as joining your community of scientists. Some of them might be in your organization, and some of them might be at Microsoft. So let me go back to the slide deck. I want to show some few more things and then quickly go to where we can take some questions. So integration with R, your data scientists, so you can bring your existing assets into R and integrate them seamlessly into Azure ML workflows. And the R scripts can be operationalized as scalable, low latency web services in a matter of minutes, because you can just put it into that execute R script box. We have access to over 400 of the most popular CRAN packages, and the Intel Math Kernel library is also available. You can visualize your data using libraries such as ggplot2, and the platform runtime environment automatically recognizes and provides extensibility via high-fidelity, bidirectional data frame and schema bridges for interoperability. That is an incredibly scientific sentence. And I'm going to show you, well, at the bottom here we have the blog. And in fact, this just came out. So EFC 917, this blog post just came out yesterday, and I thought it was so good that I wanted to put the information in for this presentation. So developers can access common ML algorithms from R and compose them with other algorithms provided by the Azure ML platform. So here's the idea. You can have machine learning algorithms in R, and then also natively there's other machine learning algorithms in the Azure machine learning environment. And that's what I just showed on the screen. When I was on that page, let me go to my page. So back on this panel here, we have the k-means clustering. This box is the Azure ML algorithm. Then we have an execute R script, which also could have its own access to a machine learning algorithm. So you can either use one or the other, or you can use both. And that's the story here with the R integration. And the nice thing is it's all being hosted in the cloud. So there are some other resources for you to be able to look at that, and I have this other blog post article was done on Azure machine learning, going from Azure to using R language. Let's talk a little bit about applications development, and it really is mostly tied to the pricing. So the pricing right now, and I'm going to have this in the slide deck just as a screenshot representing what we have today. As you know, with cloud pricing, it's going to vary over time. It's priced a lot like commodities such as gasoline. And we have the two services here. We have the ML Studio, which I just showed. I just showed the ML Studio. Per hour now, it's 38 cents. And per prediction, there's no charge. And then there's separately a machine learning API service, and that's what the applications developers would use, the ML API service. That's 0.75 per prediction hour. And per prediction, they're saying now 18 cents per 1,000 predictions. It says here on screen, machine learning is currently in preview, which I'm going to highlight that we are in preview right now. There's only one region at the present time where they're running the machine learning service, and that happens to be U.S. South Central. The prices below include a preview discount. So the hourly charges only apply to active use of the service, and that is an advantage over maybe some of the other areas of Microsoft Azure where you're continuing to pay, once some service is provisioned. But this is one is on a pay-by-use basis, pay-by-use. Okay, we talked about Joseph Sarash. There is a machine learning blog. There's a machine learning forum. These links are going to be in there, but I'm going to show them briefly in a second. And there's also, don't forget, there's also SQL Server data mining. That is analysis services technology. It also can be used off of analysis services, but that is a different type of technology, but produced by Microsoft to enable you to do the same thing. I was in a class this week. I was giving training. We were talking about machine learning, and this is a story that happened this week. Someone told me that they couldn't find any books on machine learning, and then they said, well, what they did was they started looking, and then they found these books with data mining on the cover, and they opened them up. They started reading them. They said, wait a minute, this is the same thing. And what has happened too with these buzzwords is sometimes people have been using them and not realize that they're really the same thing. There are some nuances in the difference. I didn't point out what I think are the nuances in this particular presentation, but I think there are some nuances. The important thing for you to know is if you're looking for resources and materials, look for both data mining and machine learning. And you can also look for data science while you're at it. So you can see that there's going to be different reasons why people use different phraseologies. And then I have my blog there at marktab.net. I'm going to show a little bit more on the screen, and then we will go to questions. So if you have a question, please start entering it now, because we are going to get to questions very quickly, very quickly. So start asking your questions. There is a forum available for Azure Machine Learning. Two of the pinned posts at the top is how do you delete a data set, and Machine Learning Novice, how do you get started. I will tell you now in words summarize what they say on this novice thread. One is that, what they're doing is recommending people go to Coursera and go to Khan Academy and take a course in machine learning. And then separately, there's also another course in Coursera about the R language. So those would be good resources for you to use. Do not overlook what's available on YouTube. And I know YouTube's produced by Google, but still, the Microsoft Azure Machine Learning team is using YouTube themselves. They have a YouTube channel for Microsoft Azure Machine Learning, and they had their initial promotional video, and also that Peer 1 video that I just showed are hosted on YouTube. In addition to that, there's some information on Channel 9, and it's not coming up now. I'm not seeing where I put it. I had so many windows open. But the Channel 9, there's also some other separate resources available for you to, here it is. So Paramita Mehta did an excellent presentation, released August 29th on Azure Machine Learning. Again, this is a beginner presentation, gives you an idea with her and some of the other technical presenters there, going over the technology. I've seen Paramita present this technology a few times, both in Seattle and in Washington, D.C. So she's excellent, knows a lot about what this technology can do. You want to follow up on that. Secondly, so I have the forum that I talked about, and there's also a blog separate from the forum, the machine learning blog. We have this post that I had talked about with the extensibility and R support in Azure Machine Learning. There was also a Microsoft Machine Learning Hackathon that happened recently. There was a story here, and what I want to point out is they asked the people, was working in a team beneficial? And as far as the strongly agree, almost 50% of the people said strongly agree, and then on the wedge here was neutral. And it turned out of all the teams that entered, everybody who had come to this hackathon and representing just themselves dropped out because they just couldn't keep up. But this was just a general hackathon that they had. You can go find out about this on the machine learning blog. Some of these topics directly have to do with AzureML. Some of them just generally have to do with machine learning. So you can see that this is a pretty active blog, and there have been a number of presentations that have already been out there for machine learning, and you can go and learn about that. You do need to continue to keep up to date with what the technology is doing, because it is going to be changing. Like I said, even since between the two posts I saw, there were 50 new libraries added from R language, and we can continue to see new innovation by the team in terms of adding algorithms and making those resources available. All right, so that's all I want to say for now. I want to go to see if there are any questions now. We have about 10 or so minutes left, and I want to give you all the chance to be able to see, be able to ask any questions here. I'm going to have got my question window open. I'm going to bring up again the email for you to be able to send your email and be part of the lottery here to win this Try Hadoop in the Cloud. The card says free unlimited 30-day trial, and I don't know, it's from Microsoft, okay? It says free unlimited, so I'm trusting it is free unlimited, and I'm trusting this card will still be true. But basically the point is to give you a chance to be able to try it for free and have that experience available. So do we have any questions?
Great. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, there are 4 questions in the queue if you want to open those up and take a look at it. Another one was just added too, so we're up to 5 here.
Okay,
really
so let me see on my screen. I'm not sure if I can see them. So Dan, you may have to read them.
Okay. Right. Our first question is, for billing purposes, what is a prediction and how many are typically used in a machine learning application?
Okay. So what is a prediction? So a prediction is one query. So you give it a set of data and you get a response perhaps for that single observation. And what you get back is not, okay, so if you're asking, you know, does each piece of data coming back count as prediction, I would probably not think that that was true. So, you know, for example, it's very common to say, what is the predicted value and also what is the predicted probability? And if you have asked for those two together, I think that would be counted as one prediction. Now, don't take my word for it because I'm not doing the billing. So you need to ask that on the MSDN forums, but I would think that would be correct. So you give it one vector of input, and then you get one vector of output related to that single observation. The word observation and the word case mean the same thing. And the machine learning people tend to use the word case. And the second part is how many do you have on a particular, how many do you have for a particular application? And that's going to be, it depends. It depends. So if you were predicting the weather, you would say, well, what is the prediction for a particular city on a particular day? That would be one prediction. But if you ask for predictions for the next 5 days, to me that would count as 5 different predictions. And it all depends how you set up the question. But usually it's going to be targeted based on 2 types of things that you're going to get out. One is either a group or classification, or one's going to be an amount that's going to come out. So for every amount that comes out, that is a separate prediction. Okay, so let's go to the next one.
All right.
And if you want to follow up, by the way, on any of these, I will be talking on the LinkedIn group. Okay.
Sounds good. The next question is there an easy way to port analysis services models to the machine learning? And what about the total solution, which could require porting integration services, transformations to the ML Studio?
Okay, is there an easy way to port from analysis services to Azure ML? And the answer is no. And I'll tell you the reason why. The reason why is the analysis services algorithms are separate and distinct from the ones that are used in either Azure ML or the R environment. So what would have to be done is you would have to reconstitute them in the Azure area. Now, having done the analysis services technology for years, my impression is unless you have a lot of solutions out there with a lot of deep models, then the the ideas really are easy to transfer into this new environment. So you just reconnect your sources, rerun the experiment, and then get the output. And then really, as far as the length of that string, as far as the length of how many steps there are in this path, it's really not a lot of steps. I'm looking at here in this particular step, you train it, you execute, join project columns, especially if you've done a lot of the data manipulation outside of this environment. By the way, that's something people do want to experiment with, is doing your data manipulation outside the Azure ML environment before you bring it in here. And especially if you're going to be charged to come in here. So you may want to do it outside, bring it in here after that. Okay, so
sure.
let's
Makes sense.
next one.
What are the typical use cases for a machine learning application?
Okay, typical use cases. So anytime you do search in a one of them is going to be recommender systems, and that's one of the primary technologies available. I can't find it now on the screen because I have changed the menus a few times. By the way, the latest change I really like, so I really like the way they have now organized it. But recommender systems is one application, so that you might be on a site such as Amazon and they're going to recommend another product based on your past product history or people who bought similar products. Facebook or LinkedIn or some other social networking site like Twitter, they may recommend friends that you might want to have based on a large number of connections with other friends, secondary degree connections. You see this technology also on LinkedIn. The customer relationship management is also another application that I had talked about. In order to find ideas, we didn't really go into this, but I do this with live audiences. I bring up the logos of major companies and I ask them what kinds of data science or data mining problems might you think that people might want to ask. And while if I asked every specific person that's listening to this webinar today that question, you might be stumped, but the person next to you might be able to come up with some possible questions. I think it's important to talk to business people about the questions that they find important. And at the highest level of the organization, go to the highest level of the organization that you're in, talk to the people about what their business concerns are, what are the general questions they have about the future, what type of questions are they asking. They may or may not be able to be answered through the data that's currently available, but they do provide a direction not just for what is currently possible, but what type of new data investigation or new data sources might need to be brought into a data warehouse or a big data solution.
Sounds good. All right. A few of these can be kind of combined, but now I guess once you have the results in Azure ML, how would you consume that in, say, like Excel, or what type of visualization tools would you use to do the output?
Okay, I had said earlier there are some visualizations available through the R technology. I had noticed on here that they didn't really make a lot of Azure ML visualizers available, but they do want you to maybe be able to output the information. You see the writer here is going to write a data set. So the most important thing I want to say about the writing and the write part is that you can send this information to another environment, and then from that second environment have that available for Excel or generally for Power BI. So you can see some of the choices available. CSV, we have account types here available, and the destination we have Azure Blobs, Azure Tables, and SQL Azure. And I think in general we're going to see a lot of people at the present time sending a lot of this to maybe an Azure table or SQL Azure, and then reading from there maybe into Excel.
Sounds good. Here's a question. What kind of production implementations have you seen of Azure ML, or is this still too new?
Okay, the ones that it's still too new. it's still too new, plus also there are some stories out there. I did give the one earlier video with Pier 1 imports, and you can go see what they did. Having seen the video, I think it's more of a marketing video, just generally interesting people in setting up the process and the technology. There are several aspects toward making machine learning successful in an organization. Part of it has to do with mathematics. The other part has to do with management. Because in a lot of cases, for example, in Peer 1, or even when people are giving recommendations, such as I talked earlier about recommending friends or recommending products, we're talking about a psychology of changing behavior behind the entire thing. I mentioned W. Edwards Deming early in the conversation, and if you go back and read Deming's early writings, he not only talks about statistics, but he also talks about management and management systems. I believe people have to have a management philosophy or management theory behind what they're doing in terms of changing behavior or influencing behavior. I've come up against this in some of the other projects that I've done, and that, is one of the more important parts, just generally of machine learning. But going back to the specific question, we have some companies that have shared their information about what they're doing with AzureML. A lot of people I found will generally not want to share what they're doing with machine learning. However, there are some conferences out there where people are sharing, and they do find value in generally letting other people know what they're doing. And one of those conferences is Predictive Analytics World. If you want to look that up, Predictive Analytics World would be an excellent conference to go to get some ideas about what people are doing in different industries with data mining and machine learning.
All right, let's take one more question here before we wrap up. Where would you suggest we go to find end-to-end demos of AzureML?
Okay, end-to-end demos are already baked into the product. So when you get into your, now when I say end-to-end, I'm talking about end-to-end within the Azure Machine Learning environment. There were some, now I can't see them, oh here they are, the samples. So look how many samples we have available for you to be able to try. These have already been published here, and you can go and you can look at the samples. There are some videos that go with them, so you can see some of the examples here: breast cancer, German credit, movie recommender, news categorization, ranking of movie tweets, S&P 500 company clustering. A lot of excellent examples have been already published for you to look at, and you can copy these and put them into your own experiment area. Some of the videos follow along with these experiments, but you also can get idea. Let's say you're working on a recommender system. You still might want to look at German credit because maybe there's some trick or technique that they had already done in there. So there's two parts of the question. One is, first of all, these are complete experiments inside the Azure ML environment. But going back to the last question, I think there's a whole other part of being successful in machine learning, and that has to do both with the input in getting the data to there in the first place, and then also beyond what the end of this experiment is the management psychology of changing behavior.
All right, thanks a lot, Mark. I appreciate your presentation today. Great content as always. Just want to recommend that if there are any further questions in regards to this subject, feel free to post those discussions on the Past Business Analytics LinkedIn group. We can have an open discussion about that.
Yes.
Mark, any last parting words of wisdom for the group?
Yes. I just encourage you to be involved in the community, going to presentations, or even choosing to present yourself. I know Dan would be open to talking to you. If you are working on analytics right now and you have some ideas that you want to present, please contact Dan or Paris and let them know what your ideas might be.
Great. Thanks a lot, Mark. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for joining and attending today. I hope you enjoyed the content and look forward. We'll be posting the information on the event page, and we'll tweet when that's available, as well as do a follow-up email, too. Thanks, everyone.